Howdy Tabletop RPG fans, I'm Wrangleme, Grand Poobah of Game Design, and this review's day topic is All the World's Monsters. All the World's Monsters, abbreviated ATWM, was 3 volumes of crowdsourced monster content before the idea of crowdsourcing something we used to call it community projects. It was edited by Steve Perrin and Jeff Pimper, with the work spanning hundreds of monsters by dozens of creators from 1977 through 1980. Aside from the cover art and about 20 black and white drawings, this was all walls of text and tables for 116 pages in capital letters, as was typical of computers at the time. These books were inspired by the Monster and Treasure booklet included in the original 1974 Dungeons & Dragons, but predates the release of the official TSR published Monster Manual. These books were used by my high school friends as their monster reference for any of our adventures. I didn't purchase my own copies until the PDF versions were released by Chaosium on their website in recent years. Besides Steve and Jeff's entries, the list included such notable game designers as Dave Hardgrave, Paul Jacques, Anders Swenson, and many more veterans of early RPGs. Many of these contributors knew Steve and Jeff from their contributions to the Alarms and Excursions newsletter magazine that was regularly published by fans and wannabe designers. The amazing part was that my high school friends and fellow players, Stuart Spada, Dennis O'Brien, and Scott McCartney, were active participants contributing dozens of monsters to all 3 volumes. All the World's Monsters entries had a standard format used to describe each monster before the industry started calling it a stat block. As confusing as the original tables of monsters were in the D&D books that preceded this, the entries tried to gather all the information needed to run that monster, including any blurb text describing it. For example, this page shows the Air Squid by Dave Hardgrave and the Air Fang by Steve Henderson. Each entry has name, type, created by, hit dice, armor class, move, fly, and swim speeds, IQ range, dexterity range, alignment, found in, lair percentage with a number, probability of treasure, treasure type, wandering number, attacks, and description. As was typical of West Coast designers who hacked the D&D rules, nothing was sacred. For example, alignment could be typical, or it might be hungry or something weird. One of my favorite entries was the Terrible Random Whore by Chuck Caddy, that was intended to kill player characters with outrageous hit points, abilities, and impressive amounts of damage. The player would never recognize it because it was up to the DM to decide what it looked like. The various indexes made it very easy to look up monsters, and there were also tables that indexed the monsters by dungeon level, which we all used before challenge rating was invented. Each volume of ATWM also included unique bonus content. The first volume included the amazing Henderson Monster Creation Table, where a new monster could be randomly generated based on dice rolls. The second volume included the parent conventions, revised and logical rules for running combats and turn order. Also in the second volume were rules to convert the D&D monster stats for use with Tunnels and Trolls by Ken St. Andre. The second volume also included a monster submission form, which was good as a template for your own monster designs. The third volume included rules to convert monsters for RuneQuest by Steve Perrin. Extremely useful in the third volume was the Monster by Location Guide and the cumulative index for all 3 volumes. The second volume had a cumulative index as well, but of course it only covered the first 2 volumes. I think it is amazing to reread something that we used regularly in our gaming table and know that 44 years later I've met or know many of these amazing contributors and occasionally gamed with some of them at DunderCon. I spoke at length with Steve several years ago about rebooting All the World's Monsters as a modern website and sell PDF copies of the collections. It was a dream, but sadly not something that was accomplished before Steve passed away in 2021. I think that for any game masters who are hacking their favorite rules and considering diving deep into game design, All the World's Monsters is an example of a simple design task that will help develop those skills. I challenge each and every one of my viewers to post a monster stat block and description in the comments below. I commemorate this in the spirit of Steve and Jeff and all those amazing game designers who paved the way for us today. I've always considered it a sad thing that these volumes never included Lewis Carroll's Jabberwocky, so I'll post it as an example below using the abbreviated modern 5th edition style stat block. You can get your copies at All the World's Monsters at the link in the description. This episode is brought to you by Kaboomkin, the smaller, faster, funnier RPG of cartoon, fairy tale, post-apocalypse mayhem. It's time to blow stuff up. Get it now at www.kaboomkin.com. Thank you all for watching this episode. Hit like, subscribe, or ring the bell, or Booger will get you. If you want to see more videos like this, go to hopspush.com and buy an RPG or t-shirt. Do good, annoy evil, and bye-bye.